In this video, I'll be talking about last message object. Now, this is one of the system variable that is available for you to consume. Now, this comes out of the box with Microsoft Copilot Studio. Now, there are two different types of last message object. So, as you see over here in the screenshot, it is last message.id, which returns an object of type which returns basically a string value, and last message dot text, which returns a string value. So last message id will give you the unique identifier of the previous message sent by the user. So last message dot id, string id of the previous message sent by the user. Last message dot text, string the previous message sent by the user. So this is how it will look like. So once you type in your prompt and if you trigger that specific topic, you will see that last message id, some GUID, last message text, and launch. Now, what is the purpose of last message and why would you need that while building an agent? Now, whatever the user types in within the prompt window, it is important to understand what does that prompt exactly means, and just to store that value so that you can process that information from the user as a request and then pass on to various services. So think about it, like if a user is asking for some information from you, like show me the last 10 uh, accounts which I have created in my backend system. Now, first, in this particular aspect, if assume that you're not using generative orchestration, or if you're not using knowledge of the LLM, and if this question is specifically pertaining to a specific business requirement, then you need to understand what that message is. So, in order to extract the last message, you will first parse the information and try to map and understand what does that question from the user is, and then try to find uh, that specific request, pass on to the services like the Power Automate flow, extract the information, and then present the information back to the user. Now, remember, last message is just for the last message. So, if the user types in two or three messages, then this information will only provide the value for the last message which the user typed. So, let's see that in action. So let me go into Copilot Studio. So here I'm in Copilot Studio. Let me go into agents. So I've already created a couple of agents. So let me go into travel agent. Now here, in order to simulate that behavior, I will go ahead and create a topic. I'll add a topic and I'll call it as from blank. As I'm using generative orchestration, I may need to provide some specific instructions so that this topic gets triggered when I say a specific thing. So, say, let me call this as topic as places to visit, or I'll just say place to visit, or maybe I'll just say country to visit, and describe what this topic does. Trigger this topic when user types in, maybe I'll just say travel. So if the user types in travel, this topic should trigger and I should be able to extract the information. So I'll click on add a node and I'll make use of send a message. So I'll use send a message as a block, and then from here I will just type in last message details. And here I will say last message ID and last message text. And from here I'll just make it as bold, and last message id, I will make use of a variable which is a system variable, and I get two options, last message dot id and last message dot text. Remember, it's system dot last message dot id, which outputs a string, last message dot text, which outputs a text value. of the last message. So ID, and for text, so if I just type in last, go to system, last message dot text, and this is how I can get this information. So I'm good with this. Let me click on save. Now once your topic is saved, so we have created one topic, country to visit, just to simulate this behavior, and it will trigger this topic when the user types in travel. So let me refresh the test agent, and I will just type in, say, I will not type travel, I will just type country, and it has gone into some, different topic, and then it has given me last message ID, last message text as country, because it didn't find any specific topic. Okay, now if I type in travel, it will hit that particular topic, country to visit, and then it will give me that information. Now, what I was trying to simulate is basically get the last message ID, okay, and the last message text. Let me put one more text. I'll call this as Japan, and it has given me Japan is a fascinating country to visit for its large culture and all those things, right? Now, there are a couple of things we did. One is we typed in country, then I got this last message ID. See this ID, see this ID. This ID is different than this ID. So every time a unique identifier will be generated for the last message. The text is the same text which you have typed. So country, country, travel, travel. Now here, if I typed in Japan, it has given me this last message ID and then last message text as Japan. And also by just getting into the large language model knowledge, it has given me some information about Japan as well. Now, in this particular context, the last message is this, okay, and this will have its own specific ID. Now, if I go into activity, so there is currently no activity because it is not yet refreshed. Let me see if I can refresh that now. It might take some time for this activity to display, but if you have the activity displayed, so let me show you in one of the different examples. So let me show you if I have any activity for plain agent, or maybe add agent. Yeah, so here you can see all the steps which has been executed for your specific agent. So I have queried the MCP server, list contacts from folder, list emails, and then if I navigate to this first particular record, I will see something called as a conversation ID. Now here I can copy this conversation ID. So conversation ID relates to this entire specific conversation, right? Now similarly, on that same term, we have the last message ID. So the last message ID will be specific for the last message which you have typed. And why would you need that last message? Because if you are, say, utilizing a some tool, say if I am creating a new flow or if I am using a connector, okay, now if I want to pass that information to the connector, so take for example, if you are asking for a user, tell me your email address, okay, so let me remove this, let me get this off. If I say send a message, and I will say, say let's assume this topic is like you're asking trigger this topic when user types in travel, right? Now if user types in travel, this particular trigger will be executed, and then you will be seeing that information. But think about a scenario whereby you need to ask the user their username. So if the user types in the username, or if the user types in the email address, then we can go ahead, add a tool, and then we can go to connector and maybe say user profile. So if I go into and use Office 365 connector, I can get the user's profile details. So get user profile. Now here, if I use that get user profile v2 connector, you need to pass something called as an ID of that user, because this particular connector will request for a connector. This is just like one example. Okay, now I'm just giving you one example because we should know what was that last message typed. Now in our case, if we are using a scenario whereby if the user types in the email address, and if you want to fetch the profile information for that specific user, then for this particular connector I need to specify an input parameter, the user principal name or the ID. So if someone types in the GUID of a user, then it will go into the Office 365 connector and try to get the profile information. So this will be one of the use case. So that's it, folks. This is how you basically use the last message object, last message ID, and last message text uh, in Microsoft Copilot Studio. Thanks for watching.